Today, we're going to completely rethink everything we know about arguably the most famous structures on Earth. You know the ones. We've all grown up with a very specific picture in our heads of what the Egyptian pyramids are, right? Well, today, we are going to flip that image entirely upside down. So, let's just dive right into a massive paradigm shift. I want us to totally move away from looking at these monuments as just giant static graves for dead kings. Instead, we need to ask a way more dynamic question. Did the pharaohs build the pyramids, or did the pyramids actually build the pharaohs? And for that matter, did they build the entire Egyptian nation along with them? It's crazy when you look at how the ancient Egyptians themselves viewed these structures. If you read the ancient pyramid texts, there's an undeniable direct link between the sturdy, perfect construction of a pyramid and the absolute authority of the crown. Basically, the gods promised that if the pyramid was good and solid, the king's power would be vital and respected. It wasn't just a tomb, it was a literal physical manifestation of political and spiritual control. So our modern perspective really needs an update. We are shifting away from this old school view of a colossal, passive monument and moving toward a brilliant socioeconomic theory. Modern economists are now suggesting that the continuous construction of these mega projects was actually a highly deliberate, self-sustaining economic policy. It was specifically designed to stabilize and integrate an entire society. Which brings us to the factual economic engine. Let's look at how this actually worked on the ground. Think about the sheer scale of societal mobilization here. During the annual Nile floods, agriculture completely paused. You've got tens of thousands of farmers with nothing to do. Pyramid building absorbed all that idle labor. But it wasn't just about hauling stones. To feed and house that many people, entire industries like grain, beer, and textiles had to dramatically scale up. We're talking a massive nationwide economic multiplier effect. They were building quarries, canals, and harbors, leaving behind permanent national infrastructure. This colossal collective effort literally forged a cohesive national identity out of scattered villages. And hey, Egypt wasn't alone in this. We see similar social engines in other pyramid-building societies, like the Maya and the Inca, who also used massive public works to unify diverse people under one centralized authority. And that brings us to a pretty staggering thought. The sheer logistics, taxation, and labor organization required to pull this off meant a vast civil service had to be created. Over time, this massive bureaucracy developed a major vested interest in keeping the building going just to justify its own livelihood. In a lot of ways, the continuous cycle of construction took on a life of its own. It literally ruled the rhythm of the nation. And this beautifully answers a long-standing historical mystery. Why did they suddenly stop building giant pyramids after the Old Kingdom? Well, as esteemed archaeologist Mark Lenner points out, the pyramids built the civilization. They didn't stop because of some sudden collapse or lost technology. They stopped because the ultimate goal, the centralization and creation of a unified state, had already been achieved. The engine had successfully done its job. But now, let's shift gears a bit into the mytho-historical engine. What happens when we push past grounded economics? We have to consider the incredible mathematics literally baked into the stone. According to the ancient historian Herodotus, Egyptian priests claimed the Great Pyramid's dimensions were totally deliberate. They chose them so that the area of a square, whose side is the pyramid's height, perfectly equals the area of one of its triangular faces. I mean, wow, this isn't just basic masonry. This is sacred geometry. It's encoding the universe's mathematical language right into the architecture. Now, if these structures encoded the very language of the cosmos, then that vast economic mobilization we just talked about, It wasn't just a giant jobs program. It was a massive state-sponsored spiritual ritual. The economy became this collective act of harmonizing Egypt with cosmic order. It turns the pyramid into a gigantic metaphysical power source designed to amplify the wisdom of the pharaoh across the entire land. All right, let's take this a step further into alchemy and cast stone. What if those hundreds of thousands of workers weren't breaking their backs hauling massive blocks at all? What if, instead, they were part of the ancient world's most advanced chemical R&D sector? Researcher Joseph Davidovitz presents this wildly fascinating theory. He argues that the legendary architect Imhotep actually discovered an alchemical geopolymer process over 4,700 years ago. So instead of carving stone, workers would take soft limestone rubble, dissolve it in water, mix it with a geological glue made of lime and zeolites, and cast it directly in place using wooden molds. This completely reimagines the pyramid site as a sprawling state-funded chemical laboratory. And why does this theory matter? Well, think about the number 0.002. That's 2/1000ths of an inch. That is the incredible fraction of an inch of precision achieved on the Great Pyramid's 113,000 outer casing stones. Fitting massive, uniquely carved stones together with less than a hair's breadth of tolerance is almost impossibly difficult. But if they were pouring liquid concrete into molds directly against the adjacent stones, suddenly that miraculous, mind-bending precision makes absolute sense. And that brings us to acoustic levitation and sound. Let's push into the most profound what-if of all. Theorists like Marie Jones and Larry Flaxman propose that specialized craftsmen formed elite intellectual guilds centered entirely around resonance. By introducing two opposing sound frequencies, they suggest these ancient builders could create a resonant zone to literally trap and maneuver massive stones, levitating them up to 150 feet at a time. If that's true, the economy of Egypt was driven by highly advanced knowledge industries, not just brute physical labor. Now, I know you might be thinking, okay, that sounds like pure fantasy. But what is absolutely fascinating here is that these acoustic myths are entirely cross-cultural. They pop up everywhere. We see a 9th century papyrus in Egypt talking about moving stones with sound. Over in Mesoamerica, myths say the Pyramid of the Magician was built by whistling stones into place. In England, Druid traditions speak of ley lines aiding flight. And in ancient Greece, sound was mathematically tied to the cosmos for healing. The connective tissue of sound being used as a powerful physical force is quite literally everywhere. And here is the craziest part. It's not just a myth anymore. Modern institutions like the University of Bristol and ETH Zurich are actively building 3D printed acoustic levitators today. By using intersecting ultrasonic sound waves, they are successfully trapping and suspending physical matter in midair, right now, in modern labs. It's entirely possible the ancients simply understood a science of resonance that we are only just beginning to rediscover. So, let's bring it all together and look at the ultimate civilizational engine. How do we tie all of these incredible, mind-bending perspectives together? Well, whether you rely purely on the grounded socioeconomic facts of labor and infrastructure, or you prefer to blend in the wondrous mytho-historical theories of cast stone geopolymers and acoustic levitation, the final outcome remains remarkably the same. The pyramid was doing a dozen profound things all at once. It served as the singular point where the economy, religion, material science, and cosmic myth all converged into a single machine. It wasn't just a building, guys. It was an engine. It was a mechanism that physically and socially built the nation of Egypt, trained its bureaucracy, gave its people a shared identity, and perhaps even aligned its civilization with the mathematical harmony of the universe itself. So the absolutely crucial takeaway from this explainer is that we should always question our assumptions about the past. because the truest function of a monument might just be the civilization it leaves behind. But it also leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative question to ponder. If the ancients were capable of engineering both a unified nation and the mathematics of the cosmos itself into stone, what powerful technologies have we simply forgotten how to build? Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep questioning everything.